All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Two Guys Talking Sports. As you can see, we are joined today by Keith Coward, the head baseball coach at DIllon High School. As y'all know, during the preseason for football, we try our best to get all the local area football coaches, try to do a little bit more to, kind of showcase our high school programs around our area in the PD. So, Coach, thank you for joining us this morning. I know it's a busy schedule coming with season starting. So, again, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Yep, appreciate the opportunity to be here. Anytime we've got an opportunity to give our guys some showcase love, a little bit of getting their names out there a little bit, it's always a good thing. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like sometimes, especially in high school sports, because high school football is like supreme. Just
Absolutely.
Like college football is supreme. So I feel like sometimes the other sports kind of get left in the dark a little bit. So, excuse me. So you are starting your 7th season at DIllon, your 2nd as the head coach. Kind of talk about the difference, and we'll get into last season in just a few minutes. Talk to us about the difference between being an assistant coach compared to head coach and, kind of what some adjustments have been for you.
Well, at the end of the day, baseball's baseball, but when you have the responsibility of the whole program versus kind of a responsibility that you've been given as an assistant is completely different.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of working under Coach Dozier.
Yeah.
If there ever was a person that you would look at to say hard work was what it was, and you could learn that from him. And so I've certainly taken those attributes from him. But now as a head coach, you have to understand that there was stuff that he did behind the scenes and stuff that's required to do that as an assistant you don't ever see.
Yeah.
As simple as making schedules, as simple as making sure that the kids are doing what they're supposed to do in the building. Dealing with umpires and officials, having conversations with the athletic director about different ongoings, fundraising. I mean, it's just it is a different deal.
Yeah, and it's never easy to. I mean, because I played under Dozier. I mean, he was there for I don't know how many years, but I mean, in his tenure there, I was on a state. I played in state championship. I didn't play, but I was on the team. I mean, he accomplished a lot in his tenure. So it's never easy for a coach to replace somebody that has that, maybe not reputation, but that, the reputation of always fielding good baseball teams.
Absolutely. I played in a state championship, his first one. And for people that don't know, Coach Dozier, he won 8 region titles.
Yeah.
He won 4 lower state titles, so he played for the state championship 4 times. Unfortunately, it's not for him. It's just unfortunately we were beaten by some good teams all 4 of those times. But he represented this program very well for a very long time.
Yeah.
And as far as replacing him, everybody that knows Coach Dozier personally knows that you can't be Coach Dozier because they only made one of those.
Yeah.
So it's just an opportunity, to try to continue to get back to what it was whenever he had it at a very, very high level.
Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the 2 times in, what was it, 04 and 06,
Yep.
ran into Riverside.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So 04 was my junior year, and we played Riverside High School. And my memory serves me correctly, I think they had 7 Division I baseball commits on that team.
Yeah.
And so I think they ended up the year ranked number 3 in the country that year.
They had some big boys there.
Yeah.
Because I think back in 06, that was when played Riverside, because you graduated 05.
That's right.
I think in 06 they had like Michael Roth, who's a Gamecock legend, Kyle Enders, who was played for the Gamecocks, won their national championship. Then when we made it in 2008, my senior year, we ran into Gilbert, and I think their shortstop at the time, I think he was a freshman, but he ended up being a first-round pick in the draft. And the thing with high school baseballs, especially when it comes to like the playoff times or even the state championship, you just get one pitcher that's really good, and it's tough to beat a team because you got the days, especially if in the state championship series, you've got 3 games. So if he pitches game 1, they lose game 2, he's back ready for game 3.
That's right. And sometimes sometimes in high school baseball, sometimes it's a luck of the draw. How many games did you have to play leading up to the state championship series? So if you have to use your guy to get into the state championship series, then he's maybe only able to throw the second game.
Yeah.
And then, the other team, maybe they get their guy twice, and that could be all the difference.
Yeah, because that was the big thing with us. We, it just happened to be where their main guy was ready for game 3, and it just unfortunately just couldn't cut it. But yeah, it's an historic program where people know DIllon is usually that. I guess kind of how they are in football, like what you're going to get from DIllon year in year out, majority of the time.
Yep, no doubt. Whenever I took back over, I've told my dad numerous times that a goal should be that we want DIllon baseball to be in the community, to the kids, to the coaches, what DIllon football is.
Yeah.
And so, will that ever happen? We don't know, but it's a goal.
Yeah, and I saw, I follow your the baseball account on Twitter, and this is something I don't think we ever did, or maybe I don't remember the opportunities, but seeing the players in the community, like is that initiative you took under your belt when you became the coach, where you wanted to get the players out in the community more?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, this community is good to us.
Yeah.
Not just as a baseball program, but DIllon High School, DIllon Athletics. This community is good to us. But one of the main things that we try to do, and I say we as a coaching staff, not only do we want our kids to be good baseball players, but we want them to understand what it means to be a good man, a good father, a good husband. And so part of that is building the whole person.
Yeah.
And, being a part of the community is an opportunity to do that. I assume you're talking about the canned food drive here just recently. Yeah. So, and I tell you, this is a testament to the kids themselves, not me. I think that was on a Saturday morning, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to remember back. And so the athletic director, he calls and says, "Hey man, you reckon you could get a couple guys and help out with this?" He said, "I understand it's late notice if you can't."
Yeah.
And so I sent one text message to a group of kids. And within 5 minutes, I had 7 or 8 lined up ready to help.
Yeah.
And, for them to sacrifice some time on a Saturday morning in order to do that speaks to who they are and the type of kids that we have in this program.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize like how much time, especially during, baseball season, like you're with these kids a lot. It's not just, football where you practice Monday through Thursday for a couple hours and then you got a game on Friday. I mean, you're with them. I mean, you've got games at least 2 to 3 times a week, and sometimes you're traveling for them. So some people may not realize like you're kind of their ipso facto parent during, when you have them. So I think it's very important to, it's the importance of a coach is not only to coach them for the skill level and playing the sport, but, to kind of mold them into, young men and women throughout any, high school sport.
Yeah. And excuse me. You have to understand now, the very, very, very few kids have an opportunity to play baseball beyond high school. That's a fact of life.
Yeah.
And for the very few that do, college is where it ends.
Yeah.
I mean, myself, I'm into that category. So it gets to a situation where what's important? What are they going to be able to take with them beyond just, when they cross the line and when they come off the field after the game. So, I just think as coaches and high school coaches, obviously the fans, they see us during the game and they think that they see us wrapped up in emotion from whether we're trying to win a ball game or whatever, and they think that's all we care about. And it is important to us. We're competitors. But high school coaches, they mean so much more to these kids. You think back, the memories that you've got playing for Coach Dozier and things like that. And they may be dealing with what happened in a game or so forth, but you think about the conversations that you had before and after practice. And, there's a responsibility that comes with that, and we don't take it lightly.
Yeah, and it's something like looking back now, it's been, over a decade and a half since, graduated high school. You may not realize it in time, but, looking back on it, you think of the messages that they provide to you. It does make it all makes sense in retrospect compared to like being in the moment. So talk to me about your assistant coaches. I know you've got Austin Moody, Stephen Reeves, Coley Bohasic. Coach Bohasic actually coached me in JV.
Man.
I didn't realize he was back there.
That's right. That's right. Well, probably the best assistant that I have, and it is really my boss, and that's my wife.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
The Bible tells us that a good wife is a blessing from God. And I've been blessed in a lot of ways, but that is certainly at the top of the list.
Yeah.
I certainly could not do what I do without her.
Yeah.
And any coach, if there's a coach out there that's married, you understand this, because if the wife doesn't, if she's not there in full support, then when you go home at night, you're going to have issues. I mean, she catches all the slack. She has to carry a big burden in order for me to be a big kid and enjoy the sport that I enjoy. So the coaching staff begins and ends with her, so to speak, from that perspective. But no, talking about blessings, the coaching staff that I have, wow. Well, we'll start. Talking about Austin Moody, he's a guy that I coached my very first 2 years back at DIllon High School, but he's my right-hand man, so to speak. He coaches the pitching staff and the catchers for us, and he's also the JV head coach.
Yeah.
What a tremendous worker. If anybody can say anything about him, they understand that his work ethic is just off the charts. I get to the field every day before everybody else, but his truck often is right in behind mine. I mean, he is just a tremendous worker, and he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah.
Stephen Reeves, lifelong friend of mine, but he's also a great baseball guy.
Yeah.
Well, let me go back before I start with Stephen. I guess I should give a little background on Austin. He went to Florence Darlington Tech, played baseball there for a couple years, and then he went to Francis Marion, finished up there. So he's a very, very bright individual. Baseball wise.
Was he a pitcher? I think he was a pitcher in college, right? Or that's at least what I remember seeing for him.
Yes. And but now, I mean, I'm not so sure that if they'd have gave him an opportunity, he couldn't hit as well. I mean, he could really swing it when he was in high school.
It's crazy, and I'm sorry to kind of get off topic, but it's like when you get beyond the high school level, especially as a pitcher, it's very rare unless they are just showcase something that gives them that reputation where they're just not allowed to hit anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, it's college game's a little different. It's a lot. It can be a lot.
Yeah.
But no, so he did that, and we're blessed. Not only are we blessed as a baseball staff, but he's my right hand with football. And he coaches the JV wide receivers, and he's a very big help there with me for that. So anyway, like I say, he's just he's A+. But getting back to Coach Reeves, Coach Reeves and I grew up together, played together. He played on that 2004 team, played against Riverside for Coach Dozier. And he went off and he played 4 years at St. Andrews. So when he left there, he goes to Coastal and he gets into the strength and conditioning thing. And, he's got his master's in, I will definitely butcher it if I try, but you try to remember exactly what it is in. But anyway, strength training. He's got his master's there, worked with, I think it was the football team while he was there.
Okay.
Has had job opportunities to go and do that, but he's not. He's here with us, and he handles a lot of the outfielders and some first base for us. But again, just a tremendous baseball mind.
Yeah.
So very thankful to be able to continue to do baseball with a good friend.
Yeah.
And but Coach Coley Bohasic is probably not to shortchange Austin or Stephen, but he's probably the best coach of all four of us. And the reason I say that goes back to exactly what you said. He coached you. He has been an integral part of.
I turned out okay.
He's been an integral part of the Kiwanis Club and youth sports. I mean, he's probably coached everything from soccer, basketball, football, baseball. And this past fall, my little boy played football, flag football here in Dillon. And he's out there volunteering to officiate flag football games. Yeah. And, it's just, he's just a tremendous person. And we're lucky to have him.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say this, if you want your kid to be coached, not only by good baseball people, but tremendous men, Dillon baseball is where it's at.
Yeah. And I'll kind of touch a little bit on each one of them, but I feel like having a coach who knows, and I mean, you play collegiate sports as well, but having a coach who's kind of played at the next level, knows what it takes to get there, and can instill that if you have a player that has dreams and aspirations to play beyond, high school sports. It's important to, especially if you're a pitcher, because I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what a pitching coach does. That's one thing I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
Like, what is the role of a pitching coach? Like, is it something to tweak mechanics, or can you teach a player a new pitch to throw? You know, is it help increase velocity, or like I said, mechanics? I'm all ears.
All of the above.
Yeah.
You take pitching coaches are like ice cream. You have different flavors and different philosophies. It's just whatever you like. Now, a pitching coach at a college or a professional organization would be a lot different than a pitching coach at, say, a high school. Because not only do our guys that pitch, they play other positions.
Yeah.
And he's a shortstop. He's an outfielder. He's a first baseman. And so you have to be very cognizant of what you do with them in their arms, taking care of them, which that goes back to what the job in my mind of a pitching coach is not only to help them improve at pitching, but help make sure that they stay healthy.
Yeah.
But Austin does a tremendous job. He comes up with a plan every year before we ever start. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, here's what we want to accomplish. Here's how we want to accomplish it. And, but yeah, he calls pitches, for us during the games. He has cheat sheets, if you will, scouting reports that he goes over and develops a plan going into those games. Now, plan's only as good as the kids execute it. But no, he's, again, just very blessed to have him, and he does a tremendous job.
And I know with Steven or Coach Reeves, I think I remember dating back from when I was in, because y'all aren't much older than me.
Right.
But I always remember, even after I graduated high school, Steven was always working with players in the off season. And I think another thing that's important is not every strength program is the same for every sport, where it's like you may focus on this in basketball or in soccer and football, but in baseball it could be something completely different. So if you have somebody on your staff, and I don't think people realize like how important a strength and conditioning coach is, because it's not just lifting weights, but it's like it's stretches, it's all the above to get them ready for the game. So to have somebody have that, not only the experience in the coaching background, to have that on your staff. Yeah,
well, and it's unfortunate that the way it works out for Coach Reeves right now. He doesn't teach at the high school. He teaches at Gordon Elementary. So he's there. So there's not a whole lot of opportunity for him to work with our guys in that capacity. But you're exactly right. Now, as far as the lifts being different and that type of stuff, functional strength is functional strength. Now, some of the ancillary items around, some of the smaller things.
It's not just like bench press or squat.
You can detail. You can be very detail oriented with that type of stuff. But I'd be remiss. We had our guys, big faction of our guys that were high school age kids that weren't playing football. They lifted all fall.
Yeah.
We had a class there at school. They lifted all fall. Coach Coleman, he's not with us anymore, but he did a tremendous job with those guys. And now Coach Clark we have there is working with a couple of guys that play baseball as well. So, you're right. Strength training is very important, and that is something that anybody out there, any kid that wants to play at the next level, they better get comfortable with, because it's mandatory.
Yeah. And then for Coach Bohasic, I think the experience speaks for itself. He had the opportunity. I remember because Coach Cook was the JV head coach when I played JV baseball, and he's now a principal at DIllon Middle School.
That's right.
And then just having the opportunity to work under Coach Johnson when he was there, Coach Dozier. I just think that wealth of knowledge is very beneficial for kids.
Yeah, and so Coley, Coach Bohasic, he's coached with Coach Dozier in the past too. So this is not his first time being a baseball coach at DIllon High School.
Yeah.
And he's, he coached with Coach Dozier and he played with Coach Johnson and all that stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, he may have been on staff when Coach Johnson was still on staff too. But anyway, he's the perfect blend of what I need as a head coach. Because there are times when he'll come to me, and he does it in his own perfect way, and he'll make a suggestion. I'm like, man, why didn't I think of that? And so he's a good guy to have around.
And head coach, I feel like that's what you want out of an assistant coach. You want somebody that can tell you this stuff without not fear of repercussion, because you're at the end of the day, you're the head coach. It's your call in certain aspects, but having coaches like that is, is always a godsend, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the deal with the head coach is just that you're the guy that ultimately is going to answer for it.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as our program, I guess, the final decision is mine, but no, we do things as a whole. We do things as a group.
Yeah.
There really is no hierarchy when it comes to our staff.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So we'll kind of get into last season a little bit. Okay. You finished your first season as a head coach.
Yep.
Record-wise, didn't necessarily go probably the way you wanted to, I would say. As a competitor, nobody ever wants to lose.
Right.
Went 4-13.
That's right.
Kind of talk to us about last season.
Yeah, so, you're exactly right. And, if you judge by wins and losses, no, it was not a successful season. But this thing's a process.
Yeah.
I told you earlier that the goal was to get it back to where we were at peak DIllon baseball, and that's a process.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an overnight fix.
No.
Unfortunately, we can't, and I know this will be a conversation later, we can't do what Florida State did and just go kick everybody off the roster and bring everybody back in. Anyway, it's a process.
Yeah.
So no, we would have loved to have won more than 4 ball games. But we were very competitive in way more than that. We lost to a team, Georgetown. They beat us 3-2. Yeah. And it was a 2-2 ball game going into the last inning, and they graduated 13 seniors.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of the things that's just speaking to it being a process. I kind of played a varsity schedule with a JV team and a JV schedule with a B team last year. Graduated 2 seniors, and very thankful for those guys. But the vast majority of my lineup last year were freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah.
And then pretty much completely every single one of my JV team were 7th and 8th graders. So
that's rare in high school.
Well, yeah, maybe not as rare as it was back when you and I played.
Maybe I should correct myself. Yeah,
but but for us, it just speaks to what the future could hold. Now, there's no guarantees. Just the calendar does not make you a better baseball player.
Yeah.
So just by the fact that you live 365 more days doesn't mean that you're going to get any better. But what it does, it says something to the physical maturity, and it says something to their ability to just be bigger and older and more experienced.
Yeah, because I was, we were kind of talking offline a couple of days ago, just trying to get a grasp of, some of the returning players you have. There's only one senior on that list, Brendan Miles. And I'll mention Jameson Pittman just because when I was kind of doing a little bit of research, I was following the Twitter account, and I saw a picture or a video of him. I think it was hitting in the cage.
Yep.
So that has to speak wonders to you, where it's like they're not just wanting to get better just within that small window of baseball season.
Right. And to be honest with you, that's kind of, when we took over last year, one of the biggest things in my mind was to try to fix just the kids playing more baseball. And it hasn't been, it's been tough on us because it's DIllon. We do have a lot of kids that play football as well, or basketball, and I'm waiting on 5 kids right now to get done with basketball.
Gosh, yeah.
So, which is a good thing. Now, I am not. That is a good thing that we have multi-sport athletes. Typically, the kids that can play multi-sports are your better athletes.
And I think that's. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think it's important to have multi-sport athletes because, especially in day and age of high school athletics now, where it's you have kids that are just playing baseball from age 8 to 18 and don't play anything else, or you just it's same thing with football or basketball. Like, if you're an offensive lineman who's like 6'5", 330, maybe you're limited on some capacity on what you can do. But for these athletes, it goes back even when we were in high school.
Absolutely.
A lot of our athletes all played different sports.
Yep, no doubt. So, but you specifically asked about a couple of guys, and I'll start with Brendan. He is a senior. Brendan was our defensive MVP last year. He played every single position on the infield, and he can play the outfield if we would have asked him to, but he spent time at catcher, third base, shortstop, second base, first base, and he pitched a little bit too. So he's a very versatile guy. He doesn't talk a whole lot, but he's dependable. He's always there, and he leads by example. So very thankful for him. Jamison Pittman, he's a junior this year. He was our offensive MVP last year. He's a big, strong kid.
Yeah.
And he's kind of always been a kid that really doesn't have a position. He's pitched a little bit his entire time since he's been with us in a program. And last year we said, you know what, Jameson, we're going to teach you how to play first base. And he played winning first base. And there's more that goes into that. I don't know what position you played.
I was mostly third and first. I had Coach Selmer on here a couple weeks ago. He was mostly the first baseman. And when we got to varsity level,
right?
When we played JV, you would play 2 5-inning games, so we would rotate. So yeah, I love playing first base. It's a lot of fun. You don't realize you can save a ton of errors and a ton of runs over at that corner.
It's very important, and not everybody can do it. And but he worked really hard on his ability defensively to do that. So he's a tremendous worker. He's working, extremely hard in the weight room. Excited about him. We're going to give him a shot to work some at catcher.
Yeah.
So excited about him. Guy that you haven't gotten to yet, and I don't want to jump ahead of you, but for us last year, most definitely as a program, it kind of started with Hank Grider.
Yeah.
He was our all-region selection for us. He was just a freshman last year.
Yeah.
He was a 9th grader. He going into the last 2 weeks of the season, he was batting .389 and he had a 1.5 ERA. As a freshman.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So he took a ball off the hand going into maybe the first game of the second to last week of the season, took a ball off of his non-throwing hand. And I don't know if it broke it or not. He's extremely tough guy.
Yeah.
Dad's a military guy, and he's very tough. But anyway, so his batting average dipped a little bit, and but he's our dude.
Yeah. Your hands are important in baseball.
A little bit.
Hands are important in baseball. Even if it's not your throwing hand, it's very important. I think I played Pony League, and I broke my thumb in my catching hand, and I couldn't play that year. It was awful.
Right. And he's not a guy, I put it to you like this summer, obviously he was practicing with the football team. He plays varsity football as well.
Yeah.
He's practicing with the football team, and but he's also playing summer ball with us in the afternoons. And there's a play at the plate. Catcher goes to block the plate, drops his knee down, and I don't know if he almost looked like he tore his quad. It just filled up with blood and big bruise at the bottom of it. And he never said anything to anybody. So he finishes that game.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I get a text message from his dad. He's like, "Hey, just want to let you know that Hank's dealing with this." And it wasn't, "Hey, Hank's not going to be there" type deal. It's just, "Hey, let you know he's dealing with this."
Yeah.
And then after we get to looking at it, like, holy moly! It's gross.
Yeah.
He finished the game on the mat. He's an extremely tough kid.
Yeah.
So
and then and especially somebody who can contribute that way just as a freshman, I think speaks volume to the athlete you hope he will be.
That's right.
Because that's got him for 3 more seasons, and there's no telling if he keeps at it what he can become.
Oh yeah, I think the future's bright.
And then another one you mentioned was Ryan Carter, who's he's a junior now.
That's right. So you mentioned Coach Selmer, Will. His brother, Joseph. Yep. So Ryan won our Joseph the Heart of the Wildcat Award. That's
okay.
After I don't know if you.
I didn't know that. Obviously I know Joseph.
So his heart condition.
Yeah,
okay. So Coach Dozier.
I didn't know he had an award named after him.
Yeah, Coach Dozier started that, and what the award stands for is just the guy that does things the exact right way all the time. And he's a tremendous worker and does everything you ask him to do as hard as he can do it, despite whatever he may be facing.
Yeah.
Which was Joseph. If we don't have enough time in this podcast to talk to everything Joseph Scott.
I'm not going to talk up Joseph Scott. No,
it stood for, but no. So that is an award that is not given every year.
Okay.
We don't. If we don't have somebody that epitomizes what that award stands for, we don't give it. But Ryan Carter got that award for us. He's just a tremendous worker. Talk about the weight room. He loves the weight room. He does a great job. And he's a tremendous worker, great kid. In fact, he's the best. He just, I hope my kid will turn out like Ryan Carter
Yeah.
one day. So that
Yeah.
if that says anything, what I
Yeah.
think of him.
Yeah, and going back to who the award's named after. Yeah, I mean, with what he had to go through with his heart, like I said, I don't want to, but that speaks volumes to the type of people that they are at the end of the day. And you want competitors.
Absolutely, and Joseph was the ultimate competitor.
And then last but not least, Jaden Williamson, who's a sophomore. So another young buck out there.
That's right. So we finished the year with Hank, and we affectionately know him as Jaybird.
Okay.
Jaden. Yeah. So we finished with Hank and finished the year with Hank and Jaybird as our starters.
Okay.
Which is odd, which speaks to the JV team playing a varsity schedule, two ninth graders as your two starting pitchers. But Jaybird started the year as an everyday player for us in the outfield of the varsity team. But we would try to get him innings on the JV team.
Yeah.
Some, you can do that in baseball. You can't do that in football.
Yeah.
But by the end of the year, he was just a dependable guy. He's he's a football guy too. Plays linebacker for the football team. Excited about not just his baseball future, but his future, with the football team as well. But we're counting on him and Hank to kind of be the anchors of the pitching staff this year.
And that's good that they're both young.
That's right.
So you still have time to grow with them. And baseball is not a sport where, you can always depend on, like, having a young group of kids may not give instant results like you want, but 3 or 4 years down the line, it creates that foundation.
Absolutely.
And then last but not least, we'll talk about this season. Starts this Thursday, or excuse me, the 8th. We're recording this on a Saturday, February the 3rd.
Right.
So you've got scrimmages starting this coming Thursday the 8th. This episode will come out before that.
Okay.
Kind of talk about, what you've seen from your players in preseason leading up to this. How excited are you about the season coming up?
Yeah, well, I'm probably not as excited as the kids are. The kids are tired of, just practicing. They're ready. We started practicing back on January 2nd.
Yeah.
So the kids, they've worked extremely hard. They're excited about the season. They'll be excited to compete against somebody that's not a teammate or a coach, so to speak. So
running.
And again, whether we win the region and make the playoffs or whether we miss the playoffs again, this season is not going to be defined by wins and losses as much as coaches would like for you to.
Yeah.
But as long as this group continues to take another step forward, continues to mature, goes about the game the right way, at the end of the year, that's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And if you win a few ball games along the way, then that's icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But very excited to get started.
Do y'all still play spring break tournaments?
No, we do not. So
I hate it though.
Well, and here's we are playing over spring break.
Okay.
I got with Coach Brown over in Latta, and we're going to play Latta on Monday and Tuesday of spring break. And last year I didn't schedule anything over spring break. It's kind of a learning, first year you learn. But see, I was assuming that it was just like when you and I were in school. All the kids go to spring break to the beach. And I said, I'm not begging them to come back and forth every day because I remember how miserable that was. When we get back to practice, the next practice after spring break, and I'm asking the guys how they enjoyed the spring break, how was the beach, and I had like one guy that went to the beach. Everybody else hung around the house.
Yeah. Like, we might as well do something.
We're going to do something. We're not just going to take a week off. So we're going to do a little bit.
Because did y'all have tournaments like we did when you played in high school?
Coach Dozier hosted it.
Yeah, we hosted it.
Which was even worse because then you had not only had to be there for your game, but you had to be back to work the other games, chase foul balls and stuff.
There were very few times where Dozier would have a blow up. That spring break tournament, the 2 years I played varsity, were two of the times he had his blow ups at us.
Yeah.
And then senior year, he didn't forbid us, but he was like, you're not going to the beach until after this tournament's over. Cause, we didn't play good my junior year. I don't believe. I think senior year was a little bit differently. Those were the few times he would have I guess you could say a blow up at us. Cause he didn't, the one thing I loved about Dozier, like he could get his message across without like blowing a gasket or anything like that. But I don't know what we did, but those spring break tournaments, he would blow the gasket on us really hard.
Yeah, well, he had his moments. He sure did. But he always had a way. He always had a way to make sure he got his point across.
Good. Well, Coach, best of luck this season. I'm rooting for you. I'm an alumni of DIllon. I love DIllon baseball. We'll definitely be out there to watch some games this season. I wish you, Coach Moody, Coach Prohasic, and Coach Reeves, and all your players the best of luck this season.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
letting
y'all.
me be here.
Thank y'all.